A second round of relief for restaurants is on the menu throughout Rockford, bringing nearly $200,000 in extra help to some saying they need it more than ever. The publicly funded support arrives as one business gets set to close its doors and others warn of tough times ahead. WIFR's Nathaniel Langley checks on the state of dining in the Forest City.
Running a restaurant is not for the faint of heart.
Despite the difficulty, leaders with Go Rockford see an upside.
They enrich their neighborhoods, they enrich our quality of life, they employ our local neighbors.
That's why the tourism agency works with State Representative Maurice West to offer grants for an industry seeing a decrease in business.
A lot of people feel it in the pocket right now. So I think they're spending less as far as going out.
Order up.
Restaurants say paying unemployment insurance is a pandemic leftover stuck on their plate. That's where the Restaurant Relief Grant steps in.
This grant program is helping to alleviate some of the burdens that they have for having followed the rules.
Those rules include laying off staff during quarantine. And while the doors stay open for the 30 restaurants part of the latest award, another Rockford stop prepares to turn off the lights.
It is ironic that so many businesses are getting helped by the city of Rockford, because I certainly wasn't one of them.
A lawsuit stretching 7 years doesn't make it easy for the owner of Magpie, but there are other factors squeezing budgets.
I think everyone's rent downtown has gone up. Does that make us a victim of gentrification? I don't know, maybe.
Cantina Taco hasn't received a dime from the program. The owner still appreciates the helping hand.
Any help, no matter how small, is well intended for any business, really.
In Rockford, Nathaniel Langley, WIFR News.
Girl reports the largest grant of $30,000 went to new to the program. The small award was $165.